You think that you're like, I'm being strong, but your children in the household, the whole energy in the house is already shifted because you're having that hard day.
Yeah.
What are we teaching our children? We're then teaching our children that when they have hard days,
To shut it down.
to shut it down, and let the world keep going. And when they're in the room, the whole room's gonna feel it.
So how you guys came up with the name Ctrl Alt Dlt?
So the book originally was like 6 poems, and it was a lot to do with the grief. I had just lost like my mentor in January, and this was like someone who has known me since I was like 12 or 13 years old. I did like heavily emotional work with them, and then I ended up volunteering at their program for 5 or 6 years. And they passed away, and I just felt like a lot was happening at that time. And when I was young, that's how I would deal with things. I would just write in my journal and whatever. And I never thought I was like gifted or anything. I never thought I was good at poetry or anything. But then I shared some of the poems, the 6 poems, with one of my friends, a couple of my friends. And they were like, Sierra, you should put this out. Like, you should do something with this. So then I was thinking of a name, and one day I just thought, like, if we could just Ctrl Alt Delete all grief, like if we could Ctrl Alt Delete any pain in your life that has ever happened, if you could just do that, that's how the name came.
Okay, yeah. No, that's good. That's good because me myself, because I'm like I also do poetry and I write and stuff, and I was trying to figure out why, like I was trying to decode it, you know?
Decode it, yeah.
And at first I was thinking, Control or Delete is something that you do when you're at a place where everything freeze.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Okay, that could be it too.
And you need like
the computer actually freezes. And you need to
like help to reboot. You know, so
that's actually a really good interpretation. I wish I came up with that.
Yeah, well, like,
that's actually why I named it Control Alt Delete.
I mean, yours to me is better because it's Control Alt Delete for pain, where I was thinking Control Alt Delete for life.
Right, and like as I wrote more poems, like I had to come up with. I was saying to you before that like they literally was like, no, you can't have a paper book copy of 6 pages unless you're gonna be finding someone to print it, right? So I had to literally come up with all these other poems. And when I started writing more, I was like, well, what if I had none of these experiences? Then I could have nothing to write.
Yeah.
So even though we want to Control and Alt Delete the pain, a lot of creatives, we went through pain to be able to create. Yeah. So it's something that we need to have, but it sucks when you're going through it. It sucks when you're in that pain. You're just like, delete.
Yeah.
Delete.
You just want to forget about it, right?
Yeah.
One thing I did realize is that I don't know if there was a reason for it.
Yes.
But when you were introducing your grandma, you left half the page blank.
My grandmother?
Yeah. So like
the last one, yeah.
The last one, right?
I did that on purpose. Yeah. There needed to be like a separation, a pause.
Yeah, like a pregnant pause, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's how I interpreted it again.
Yes.
But I was like,
that was intentional. Yeah. A lot of things in the book, people were like, oh, did you know that you did this and you did this? And I'm like, yep. Like there were a lot of intentional things that happened in the book. Yeah.
So for me, I knew that it was intentional.
Yeah.
So that's why I bring it up. You know, it's like, why? Like why was it? Like what was the reasoning behind it?
I think it's like the best for last, and that needed to be it. And then I could say my thank yous for like this book, which was like my daughter and one of my best friends, Liza. She's the one that like helped me decide to like put it out and look at it, like double look at it. My grandmother was like a huge part of my life. She was more of my mother than she was my grandmother. And so losing her was like humongous. Even though she was aged, a lot of people say, oh, they lived a good life. Like when people that are older die, they always say, oh, they lived a really good life. And then I'm like, how do you know that they lived a good life? I always say that to people, like, how do you know that their life wasn't encompassed by pain as well, right? Like, and all those Control Alt Delete moments, right? So my grandma's end of life was very sad. she died very slowly. It was a lingering death. She didn't just die suddenly. And so that was very hard for me to watch. And so I constantly honor her in my life. And she's just like a light of my life. I just really, really love her. So she was last but not least. And there needed to be a silence for her, like a pause for her.
Yeah.
That's how I felt, and that's why I did it.
And it's crazy to think, because this just came to me while you were saying that, is that with all those Ctrl Alt Delete moments,
Yes.
she probably won't have been someone that you remembered or impacted your life that much.
100%.
You
A
know?
lot of the time she saved me, like saved me from being on the street. She saved me from, not having food. She saved me from, not getting picked up. Like there was a lot of moments that were painful moments as my childhood, but her being there, I wouldn't have felt as strongly as I do about her if I didn't have those moments with her there.
And even the moments that she been through in her life, right?
Oh, 100%.
Because she had to go through a lot of things for her to be that person to understand when someone need help,
someone
right?
to pick them up. Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's very hard because I think there's different generations where they weren't as emotionally intelligent as we are. Like we talk about emotional stuff all the time. Even if it's surfaced, it's like we're still talking about it. We're still acknowledging that it's there. My grandmother didn't have that. So for her to pick up on those things just because she's a person with a good heart or because she loved me is pretty big. Yeah. Right? Like that's a big thing to pick up on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's very special to me. So that's why there's a pause between.
So are you from London?
I was born and raised in London. Yeah, I am. My grandmother, so my father was born in Portugal, and my mother was also born in Canada. My mom's side is French Canadian, and my dad's side is Portuguese and Hispanic. Mm-hmm. And so I'm first generation of their side and lingering generation from the other side. So yeah, London. I lived in Toronto for a couple of years, so I left and I engaged in Toronto, and then I came back. And London is interesting. If you live here, if you know London, then it's interesting. It's small. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody is connected at some point. But I like the trees of London. I like going on hikes. I like being in nature. So that's why we came back to London. Yeah. Because Toronto's too busy for me.
Yeah, I mean, Toronto is way too busy for me too.
It gives me anxiety.
Yeah, I like London because how small it is and that kind of stuff too. But sometimes I feel like Toronto is that place that you want to be if you do have kids,
If you don't have kids.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big highlight. Me and my daughter lived in Toronto, like my oldest, when I had her. And it was great because I lived with two of my best friends that we've known since we were 4. Like, I was 4. So it was like having it was fun for her. Like we had like an auntie, mom, young vibe all living together because that's how we could afford it. But as soon as I was like onto my second, I was like, no, absolutely. It was just too much. It's too much, like rent and like the cost of living, the busyness. And then like it doesn't feel as homey as living in London.
No. It's definitely
it's different.
It's a get money place,
Yeah, and I had like 3 jobs. I was bartending. Like it's just like you're go all the time. Even at like 4 a.m, if you look outside Toronto, it's still alive. It's still happening. People are still walking their dog or running or getting up for work. Like it's completely different than London. So
yeah, I understand.
We love London right now.
In terms of the poetry in the book, right?
Yes.
Do you think it was put in a specific order? Because for me, when I read it, I kind of feel a planned
order.
To me, it just seemed like a music album. It was like
that
everything.
Makes me feel very creative.
Everything was planned. I mean, for you, you probably wasn't even thinking about it.
No.
But it could be subconscious, I don't know.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Like, the first 6 were for sure planned. They were for sure put in a like a way that they were staggered a
Yeah.
certain way. But the rest of them, some of them maybe, but it was probably subconsciously because the way that these poems came, I have not written poetry in years. When I say years, like since I was a young kid, like little. And then all of a sudden, I had all these poems coming to me, like literally they wouldn't stop. They wouldn't be quiet. Like I literally took out my phone and was writing them on my phone. I have the first 6 poems were written on a like mail, like letter mail that I had. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to write this down. So I didn't think I had the capacity to write this many poems. So a lot of it was subconscious. A lot of it was like, I'm having a really hard day or I'm crying on the ground and I'm like just writing it out and then leaving it. Like I haven't even read some of them over again. So some of the things I have to like open and look at because it's not even
in your memory.
Yeah, I have to physically look at it to understand like, oh, that's what they're talking about. Yeah.
So you ever heard of the red car theory?
No.
So how many red cars did you see on your way here tonight?
Oh, I saw one. I know I saw one only because my grandma used to drive a red car. So whenever I see little red cars, I'm like, oh, hey, grandma.
But if I was to tell you, I'll give you $100 for you to tell me how much red cars you saw on your way here.
Besides that one, I don't know.
You don't know, right?
No.
But if before you left, I told you, I'll give you $100
yes.
if you count how much red cars.
Okay, yes, I've heard of this theory before. Yes.
You come. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like that time where you open up your mind to poetry is when it came flooding.
True. Yes.
But before you wouldn't see it.
No.
Before you just be living your life and you'd be like, okay, this is something normal. And the thing with poetry is most poetry, creativity on the whole, are like regular stuff that happen. That's why you could watch a movie and it could be so into the movie and it be relatable because it's something regular that somebody put there that you necessarily wouldn't want to pour there. Because I was reading one of your poetries and one of your poems, sorry, and it was like it was, I can't remember how it goes. It was like, what pill are you taking? It's talking about a pill.
Oh yeah.
And then
13.
And then in the end, you say, I'm trying to end my life.
Yes, yeah. I was 13 when I tried ending my life. Yeah.
Oh, that was 13.
Yeah, that was 13. That's why I know the poem.
So you wrote the poem when you were 13?
No, I wrote the poem about being 13.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah. So some of them some of them are pretty heavy poems. Yeah. But yeah, the part about the pills is like, how many do I have to have? Like at that time I didn't even know that you could commit suicide off taking pills. I just, you see movies, people take all the pills and then the end, right? So at 13, that's what my plan was. I was like, I was going to take pills, but I didn't know how many you had to take. And I obviously didn't take enough because I'm still here. But my cousin came home and I was at my cousin's house while I was doing it. It was just after my dad died. And she was like, why are you acting so funny? Like I was like, it was Tylenol. But I kept saying my ears are ringing. And so anyway, she had to call the ambulance and it was a whole thing. But that, they had said, she didn't take enough, but she's getting to the point of that point. So that was the idea of 13 was how many pills are there, how many. But yeah.
At what point of your life you decided that you would be strong enough to revisit these things? Because as I say, like for me, a lot of my trauma are buried. And when I write, I bring it out. And sometimes I hate writing because it makes me remember certain things and certain emotions. So till this day, my wife would tell me that she could see my emotion in my writing.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's hard for me to bring it out, like in writing is where I could see how I understand someone's feelings.
Yes. Yeah. The connection. Yeah.
Yeah. So at what point did you feel like you were strong enough to?
That's a good question. I think this is probably the weakest I've been in my whole life is this year. I keep saying this to people and people are like, what are you talking about? You wrote a book. But I think it's important to think about not the strongest, but the weakest. Because when I think of strong, my whole life, strong to me when people are like, oh, you're so strong. Like people have said that to me about me my whole life. My therapists have cried to me about what I tell them. Like, and then they're like, oh, you're so strong. And what strong has looked to me is the wall, right? Like it's really easy for me to shut off, to not write, to not tell people my side of the story, to go on in life, be happy, be funny, walk on the streets, and give everybody else the shoulder. That to me is like what strong means to me, or what people view me as strong. What this took was me being weak, me crying on the ground, me not being my best self, me having moments of really ugly moments to be able to have this energy in this work. It was not strong at all. It was like I felt like a little girl inside. And when I was little, there was a time in my life when I was about 7 or 8 where I kind of went mute. I just didn't talk to people. I didn't. And I started self-harming a lot. And that's really young for self-harm, like 7 and 8. And I thought that that was normal because I was making sure that everybody around me was okay. Like my parents, my brother, everybody else, because the chaos that was happening. So that was what I did. I wrote when I was that little. And so between 7 and 11, that's when I started writing, when I really got into poetry, when I really started reading poetry, all these other things. That was my way out. So it took me a long time to get back to that. It took me a long time to get back to being weak or broken or vulnerable, because before that I just thought, keep pushing, do whatever you have to do, go all the therapy, get all the help that you need so that you can be this like amazing healed. I say healed because I just don't think you're ever 100%. Sure. I think you're just always working on the person because life is happening. Life is going to keep happening. You're going to keep having tragedies in your life, and you just have to be able to know what to do with those tragedies. But I don't think this work would have happened if I didn't have those moments of weakness. And then I think the strong part is being able to put it on paper and say, I don't care how people interpret this. A lot of people reached out to me saying like they really felt a connection to a lot of the poems, which that's really special to me because I think poetry can do that. The right poetry connects you to me, right? Like you read it and you're like, oh, this is like exactly what you're doing. This is what I thought of it. This is the language I interpreted of it. That's what poetry is supposed to do. It's not supposed to say like, you're supposed to know everything about me. It's supposed to say, how does my stuff bring up your stuff? And like vice versa.
So as you were saying now, a thought just come to me, and I think is a pretty cool thought, so I'll share it with you. And is like the will. That's my accent. I can't say the will like everybody else and some philosophical, but the will could only be changed when a creative decides to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And like while you were talking, that line just came to me in plain sight. I could see it,
Yeah.
And it's like the strength, the strengths that some people have. So like for me, the strength is you deciding that you had to go through these emotions because it's something I had to go through,
Yes,
know? Yeah. And it's something that I call the lonely phase, actually. It's a time in somebody's life where they feel like they're going through depression and they want to commit suicide and they think about what if they wasn't here. Yes. And it's something that's necessary for everybody, I think, because that's when you get to know who you are, and you think about all these old memories and new memories and then you think about your kids, and it's so much things that happen in that short time that it actually break you, but you allow yourself to be broken. Yes. And that's where the strength really is. I think strength is allowing your mind, your spirit, and your body to go through the reset where you feel like you need to be on the floor crying. Yeah. Because now your reset could change somebody else's life. Yes. And
there's like an energy. Like I was watching something the other day, and that's exactly what they were talking about. They're talking about if you don't hit 0, you can't reset. Like the 0 is I literally, I don't want to be here anymore.
For sure.
And how can I end this? And then I have to go through how that affects everyone else and take myself outside of that and think, okay, what does that feel like? Is that more important than this right now? Because there are people that take their lives and they have to go through that same moment. And I think, and I don't want to offend anyone by saying this, but I think people have purpose in this life. And I think sometimes the purpose is that moment in their life, right?
Yeah.
Because that zero for them affected someone else and maybe someone else took their zero and reset their life from that zero, right? Like I can reset my own life because I haven't taken my life, but other people can't at that moment, right? So I think that's very valid, and I think we misinterpret strength a lot. We misinterpret strength of being like shoving everything down instead of bringing everything up. That's a lot of misconception. Like I can only be strong if I'm 100% all the time. But what you're saying is like the strength is also saying I'm completely vulnerable, I'm completely broken, and then that's when the creative stuff
happens.
Comes to pass.
Yeah, that's where creativity lies, you know.
Yeah.
In that part of our lives. So that's good. It's good that and I don't know what was your thinking behind it, but even if it was subconscious, I don't think it was subconscious. I think there was something that was saying that it's time.
Yeah.
You know, and it had to be time, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, even if you don't think about it,
I think I do. I think there's just a lot of back and forth with myself. Like, I think some days I'm like, even I had to have like a conversation with my friend, I think it was yesterday or today, and I was like, you know, because my birthday is coming up in November, and she's like, I think we should do something to celebrate like the year that you had. And I was like, it was like the shittiest year of my life. Yeah. It was a really shitty year. Like there was a lot of grief. There was a lot of loss in like different parts of my life. And I felt very lonely. Like there's a poem in there called Lonely. And that is literally the highlight of, I think that's one of my favorite poems because it reminds me of how lonely this year has been. But there's been a lot of growth in that loneliness. And she goes, we should celebrate just everything you've accomplished. And I'm like, I haven't really accomplished anything. And then she was like, what? And this is the self-talk that we do to ourselves, right? We tell ourselves, well, we all have that self-talk in us that's negative, right? So
yeah, for sure.
My self-talk is like, I'm meh. Yeah. Like that's me all the time. I'm always like, someone gives me a compliment. I'm like, like that's just where I go because I've conditioned myself, or there has been an idea in myself that is, you're meh. Like anyone, you know what I said to her? Anyone could write a book. That's what I said to her. Anyone could write a book. And she was like, no, Cierra, there are lots of people that want to write a book and don't write a book. Like that's not everyone. And especially in this hardest year of your life, you decided to write a book. You made a decision, whether it was subconsciously or not. You made a decision like, this is time. This is enough. Like, get it out there. My whole life, people have told me to write a book. My whole life. Like, when I was 11 years old, I wrote a poem for the first time, and it got published in, like, First Nations, like, paper. And people since then, you have to write a book. Like, the experiences you've experienced need to be on paper. And every time I went to go write a book about my life, like biography, like I would just get stunted. Like almost like it was too much. It was like, it's too overwhelming. So this was like the best thing aside from that. I can't write I'm not going to write a whole biography or bibliography because that might be too much. But this was enough. This was
you said I know.
I know.
You said I know until it's time. Just like this one.
Yeah, maybe.
Right? You said I know until. So I was talking to my cousin this year, right? And I'm not a therapist, and we are trying to be a therapist. But I was talking to my cousin this year, and she was going through the same type of thing. Yeah. She was this self-doubt, and I told her, I was like, you have to understand that what conditioning is, right? And when you went through a lot of pain and a lot of loss, yes, your mind conditions itself to protect.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
so from the time somebody say for any accomplishment,
Yes.
and we're like, yo, that's a good accomplishment. Because your mind
Yes.
don't want it to be all it could do, or it just in case you fail, just in case it doesn't go how you think it should
Yes,
go.
the limitation of
Exactly,
it.
you know, and
setting yourself up to be the worst so that anything beyond that
is nothing.
is
Is good.
yeah.
So what I do is that I had to recondition how I used to think, you know, and I had
Yeah.
to rethink everything, and I would celebrate small things like when the podcast just started and we had 50 views, and I'd be like, 19, it was 19 views.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, we have 19 views. And there was a guy in the barber shop laughing, and I'm like, he's like, why are you laughing at? He's like, why are you happy for 19 views? It's just 19.
Yes.
I was like, bro, 19 people sat and listened to this
Listen to your podcast.
You know how much is 19?
Yes.
You know? And then
I
he was like,
know.
oh, okay. I was like, the world condition us with Instagram and stuff so that you have
That's
to
the
have
problem.
10,000 views.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's not what it is, you know. If I could get 19 people to sit and listen to my stuff, that's a huge.
I know.
If I could get one person, you know, I have a theory that anything you do in life, right? So like, even if you have this book, and you could get one person to change their life, one person that it
you're
affect,
paying it forward. Yeah.
then you're good, because then that now all you need to do is find a million more of that one person. It has so much people in the world.
I know.
It's just to find them, right?
Yes.
So, and it will find them eventually, you know, when the time is right. So sometimes it's just about celebrating what we have, you know. And like my mom told me one time, she called me for my birthday and she's like, what are you gonna do for your birthday? I'm like, I don't want to do nothing. I didn't accomplish nothing as yet, so I don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
She said, okay, cool, I understand. I was like, yeah. She's like, well, God should take your rest of birthdays since you don't want to celebrate.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, well, if you think
woman.
if you think you don't want to celebrate, you have to celebrate, then why God blessing you with more? She should just take the rest. And then I'm like, okay, now you put into that perspective.
Yes.
You know, it's like you went through that phase and you make it out of that phase and you write a book from that phase. You know, that's a huge accomplishment.
I know.
That should be celebrated.
I know.
Especially with your kids, because it had to go through that phase with kids, because now you had to be strong every morning.
Oh my gosh.
You know?
You should see me like driving them to school some days, and like my eyes, I'm just like holding them together so I'm not crying in front of them, because someone always, and my oldest, she knows me so well, so she'll just be like, oh, like, are you in a mood? Like, that's, are you in a mood? And I'm just like, no, I'm fine. And she's like, you're definitely in a mood. And, you know, so it's these constant reminders of, you can't just break down. Like, you're breaking down when the kids go to bed. You're holding yourself together the whole day, and then you're shoving the pillow over your face, like, at night so they can't hear you cry.
Yeah.
Like,
it's hard.
It's hard. Yeah. It's very hard. And I think I had a huge lesson this year of motherhood is enough. Like, I'm the kind of person that I have to do 20,000 things at the same time. I have to write a book. I have to, you know, start a business. I have to work 3 jobs. I have to, like, I always have to overcompensate. And that's a conditioning that I have of you're never good enough. Like, that's the conditioning behind it, right? So I have to tell myself all the time, this is enough. Like, you're doing enough. Like, sometimes even I get upset about my meal that I'm making the kids at night, because I'm like, oh, it's not good enough. Like, they should have 3-course meal. Like, this is what I think in my head, right? So the conditioning is you're not good enough. But realistically, I'm good enough just thinking about the fact that I have to keep them nourished. Some days it's pasta, and it's been 3 days of pasta. And they're like, Mom, can we have anything else but pasta? You know? But in my mind, I'm like, oh, I don't have the energy to make anything else but pasta, right? And then other days it's like, I'm going to make a whole new recipe. I'll make 3 different things because all 3 of you want different things. And that's the energy I have for that day. And that's enough, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But in my mind, I'm conditioned to think everything is not enough, because if it's not done a certain way, if it whatever, then I'm not good enough. So this year I went through postpartum. That's what like started this whole book. I've never knew that postpartum was real, not to offend anyone. I literally was like, what is this postpartum? I've had 2 children. I got up. I did all the things. Everything was fine. I'm like, is this postpartum like something that, you know, people just say? And then I had it. And I was like, it was like a ton of bricks hitting you in the face and you having to still function as a human being. And so a lot of the times I'm like, I'm not doing enough. Every day I would be like, I have to go back to work. I have to do this. I have to do that. I don't even have the energy. I'm pumping. I'm this. I'm all these things. Trying to be like this perfect person. Perfection isn't real. It's not attainable. You're never going to get there. But in my mind, it's like you have to do all these things. You have to be good enough. And even writing this book, I'm like, it's not good enough. Like, who cares that I wrote the whole meh feeling. When really this is about just being like, why don't you just be? Why don't you just be who you are in this moment or in whatever state you are? And being a mom on mat leave is good enough. Like writing a book is just like an extra accomplishment on top of that. But it takes me a lot. And I've done a lot of different work where I've conditioned myself to, oh, there's a dog pooping on the street. He's like, okay, yeah. But I think I've done a lot of work emotionally to get rid of these things, but I think this is what I'm talking about. This is the year that it's like all the work that I've done. It's not that I'm going backwards. It's that there's like, okay, now there's like another level that needs to happen. So like I know all this like stuff, surface stuff, and it's got me to this far to be able to talk about this stuff. But now we have to go deeper so that we can like let go and so that we can be okay with that meh, like get rid of the meh, like start celebrating the little accomplishments that.
Oh, and that's what you get after you wrote the book. So the book did accomplish something.
Something, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still, like, when people message me about the book, sometimes I'm still like I'm like really happy for them.
Yeah.
You know? Like I can't even be happy for I'm like, oh, I'm so happy that you like it. You know? Instead of like, this is a great moment for me. I'm like celebrating that they've found
something that they like.
Something that they like.
Or that they can connect to.
They can connect to,
But,
yeah.
okay, so what do you think the book did for you, though?
Maybe it's these little moments of like realization that like it's more of a meh. It's more than a meh moment, right?
Exactly.
Like,
so a win is a win.
A win is a win, yeah.
Exactly. So
I mean, at the end of the day, it's out there.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, people are reading it. Some people, a lot, like there was a couple people that said to me the same thing that you, did you write everything that was in here? And not in like a bad way, but the thought that comes to me when people ask me if I wrote everything in there is, do they think that I like copywrote it? Like, do they, like, that's where I go. But when I said this to my friend, she's like, Cierra, that's ridiculous. Like, she's like, no one thinks that. They're just asking a question, right? But that's where my mind goes. My mind's like, do they not think it's good enough? Like, that's where I go, where that's just being a creative, right? Like, it's sensitive because this is, to me, it's not, I didn't sit down and write poems. I wrote parts of my life. Yeah. And then I just put it out, you know? So that's.
Yeah, because that's the feeling I get when I was reading it too, that it was more like memory. Because to me, it was poetry, but it was like, like sometimes when you have a memory that you can't really remember.
Yes.
So you get like flashes of the memory.
Flashbacks, yeah.
So that's what it felt like to me. That it was like, like for instance, I tell people all the time that one of my earliest memories was me going to watch Free Willy.
Okay. And, I actually remember that movie too.
Yeah, in cinema.
Okay, I never watched it in theaters. I watched it at home.
How old are you?
I'm 32.
Oh, yeah. No, I went to cinema to watch it.
Okay.
And so I would have been 2 at the time. I didn't even realize I was 2 until one day I was talking about a memory I had going into the cinema with my Aunt Sunday, and my dad had to come pick me up because there was a part where he went under and Free Willy came in the dark. I don't know if you remember the movie.
I don't remember. I remember bits and parts of it.
It was like the first time he saw Free Willy when they broke into the water park, and they were like underground, and Free Willy came in the dark and it was like flashing, and I was too scared.
Oh, when he like comes, he like submerges from the water, but he's like under the glass.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. You know.
Yeah.
And to me, that I was too scared, and I didn't. So then we checked the year it came out. It was 1992. I was 2 years old. You know, and it's like something like
Why
that.
would they take you to go see Free Willy?
Well,
they were like, "This is gonna be a fun family movie."
Exactly.
But you were like, "Drama."
It was like Michael Jackson was the soundtrack. Like
Yeah.
any black kid wanted to see Free Willy. That was cool, you know. So
Yeah.
I didn't even realize I was 2 at the time, you know. But it's something traumatic that happened that make me remember.
Yes.
So now it's like when I remember it, I get like bursts of memory. It's not like I get like a full fluent memory of it. Like I get a memory of being in the cinema. I get a memory of the flashes. I get a memory of my dad picking me up, you know.
Yeah.
I get a memory of my mom being in hospital before my brother was born, and he's 3 years younger than me. So that means I had to be around 2.5, 3.
Yeah,
you know,
that's crazy that you remember these things.
Exactly, but that's how trauma works, right? And
yes,
that's why I realized
and
with me,
it sticks with our body.
It sticks with you, you know, and you never realize until you do therapy. That's why therapy is important, which
everyone should do therapy.
Yeah, I never done therapy. I'm scared. I'm scared to bring up my demons.
No,
but
you should do it. This is the thing when I tell everyone about therapy. I literally just had this conversation on the way here. It's about you. Everybody thinks that they can read a self-help book and do the work and that they're going to be like healed. Okay? That's what our society has told us. Let's watch a whole bunch of Instagram, TikTok videos of someone telling us what we need to do, and then we're going to go do it ourselves. But sometimes the blocks, the layers, the trauma, the this and the whatever bouncing off, if you have a good therapist and you are ready to do the work, those things you cannot do by yourself.
No, for sure.
You cannot. The support system that you need to help you go through the same way that we just talked about my meh. I'm saying I have a meh. I know that I have a meh. I know that's a conditioning. I know I can understand where it comes from. I can understand that it's there. But you're now telling me, okay, let me tell you about a story of how my mom told me, and now we're working through, okay, yeah, like his mom has a point. His mom, so why should I continue living if I just think I'm meh? Like, right? And then I have to think, is that really how I feel? Am I really meh? I just wrote a book. Am I really a meh person? Do I look at do other people look at me like that? Is that real? Okay, no, that's a lie. So then I can then start to think about the conditioning of how do I recondition that? If I'm not meh, what am I? Am I good enough? Is that just like the statement is you are good enough just because you are? Period. Right? So we work through that whole thing just sitting here. Imagine a therapist who actually is maybe trained, right? Or someone who is specific in a certain training, right? Like there's different types of therapists. I always tell people go therapist shopping. Don't just settle for one therapist. If you don't like the way they sound, get a new therapist. If you don't like the way they look, their expressions on their face, get a new therapist. Because you have to sit there and pay someone to help you work through your shit. If you don't like the way they sound, if you don't like the way they function, if you don't think that they are equipped. I've been to therapists before where I'm like, I feel like I'm therapying you.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I know more about myself than you do. And I feel like I'm telling you how to help me. And not, why am I here? Right? So I think it's really important. And I think everyone should do it at some point in their life because we're just not capable of doing it by ourselves.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. It's something that
it's scary.
I do have to do, you know? Yeah. It's something I do have to do, and it's something that I'm like prepping my mind.
Yeah.
You know, I was telling my girl that I wanted to start, but it's something that I just need to make time for, I guess.
Yeah, and it's scary.
Yeah, and it's scary. And I know, like, I'm such a visual thinker.
Yes.
That, like, I bury a lot of things.
Yes.
You know, and I forgive a lot. So I bury and forgive, and I forget, you know?
Yeah.
And then something will happen, I'll be like, oh, wait, I remember this happening when I was a kid. You know, so a lot of my memories as a kid, I do have recollection of. But a lot of the memories I do have is like with my mom, and that kind of memories, right, is like good memories, you know? Like when it comes to bad memories, I do have as much.
Yes.
You know? And I feel like it kind of block some good memories because now, because I had to bury something, sometimes it happened on the wrong day. And that day
Yes.
would have been a good memory if it wasn't for that one incident.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but
yeah, trauma is challenging. I think the one work I did with my mentor that I did for 4 years, she wrote a program that was amazing, and it was emotional childhood trauma, and that's what it was. So if you had a trigger here, like in this day, and you had like a memory, you would work through your trigger through that memory, right? So you would work through, maybe it was a bad experience, right? And then you would work through challenging that experience as an adult. So what did you deserve as that child, and how could you reteach yourself as an adult to that child? So you're essentially being a parent of your little person inside of you so that you can be the adult that you need to be. Like, her whole belief was that yes, we can grow intellectually, we can grow physically, we can grow spiritually, whether we were given those things as a child or not, because you can go to church, you can read books, and even if you're malnourished, you're still going to grow. Your body physically does it regardless, right? But the one thing we cannot grow is emotionally.
Yeah.
We get stuck at whatever age the trauma happened. So if it's 2, if it's 5, if it's 6, that's how we're reacting as a 32-year-old or a 33-year-old. We're out in the world, and as soon as we get angry, as soon as we get triggered, we react as that little boy or that little girl. So until we get the emotional support that says, okay, is this actually life or death? Like, do we really need to fight or freeze? Or is this just a moment that we're a little bit scared? Unless we're in fight or flight, like literally a bear is chasing us, we should not get that reactive. So it's about training us. Okay, where does that remind us of? What does this moment remind us of? Can we go back to that moment? If we go back to that moment, what happened and what should have happened? Because if we're still reacting that way, it's because no one sat us down and gave us what we needed in those moments. No one told us how to self-regulate in those moments. So we cannot regulate now.
Yeah.
And vice versa. But anyways, it was a very good program. I learned a lot from it. And then I volunteered and I led those programs before she passed. And that's why this year has been so challenging for me, because when she passed, I felt like I was like, oh, I have nothing. Like, who do I go to like mentor me, right? And like, also, I have this beautiful program that I've been leading and helping other people. And now we can't do that program anymore because, there's legality issues to it. So now I'm trying to write my own program based on that and like trying to create something. But I had to get through this stuff and this book and like whatever was coming up from her passing to be able to, I can't help others if I'm not doing the work myself.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. So in terms of after this book, right? Like, what do you, I don't mean like, what are you going to have next in terms of this?
I don't know.
I mean like what's your goals?
In my life?
Goals? Like it doesn't have to be your life, like who you want to become. Because I know, like, we were talking.
Yes.
And you was talking about like you want to do the podcast and you want to do a follow-up
millions
book.
Of things.
Yeah. No, and that's
yes.
I think everybody should do millions of things. Like, yes. my post just today, I made a post about doing millions of things, and yes. I said, like, when you feel like you finally find something that hit after feeling so much different things, Yes. Like, if you ask me, if you come to me with an idea and you say you want to have an idea that to do a TV show, I'll tell you, yeah, do it. Like, that's how
yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, that's literally
do the TV shows.
Yeah, for sure. So, where do you want to be? Like, who?
Oh, there's so many things. This is a tough question. This is what I'm struggling with right now, is doing 20 things. And someone last year when I was writing this book literally said to me, you have a whole bunch of things going on. Pick one thing at a time. Really focus on that. And then put it on the shelf when you're ready to do the second thing and the third thing and the fourth thing. So right now, yeah, I don't know. I really want to focus on like writing the program. Like, that's the next step. Mm-hmm. But I know that's probably going to take years to come to fruition. Like, where I would like to be is working with people in jails and working also with, that's what she wanted. That's what my mentor wanted. she was a correctional officer for 20 years, and then she retired and wrote this program, and then she did it with the kindness of her heart. Like, she literally did this program for like $30 for people to do it, and it was a 13-week program, and it was like, this is her life. And for me, I was like, don't you want a monetary gain? Like, don't you want to like expand this? But her concern was expanding was then you become systematic, right? And then you can't break the system. So I'm sure, social workers want to be great and nice, but there's really a lot of corrupt social workers, right? There's a lot of corrupt politicians, systematic stuff, right? Yeah. And she didn't want to be in that. But I was like, what if I could come up with something and it's as intimate as her program? Like, I'm going to the jail myself, not handing the work off to someone else to do it. But yeah, that would be like my goal in the next 5 years is either in jails or even this inclusivity work environment. I don't love their training. I think their training needs to go a little bit deeper instead of like 101 how to treat human beings. Like, I think we should be a little bit more evolved than that in 2023. So part of it would be like integrating that in the workplace as well. But I just don't know that the world is ready to be that deep, right? Like, I don't know. So that makes me nervous. It makes me a little nervous when writing. I know people want to. I know people are like, yeah, I want to get there. Like, I want to do all these things. But, like, put them in a room and have really hard conversations with them and see. Because that's the people I worked with, right? Like, the people I volunteered for this program, people would come and they'd be like, yeah, I want to just be healed. I want to be great. I want to be this perfect thing. And then as soon as we would be like, okay, so what's this about? And, like, what's that about? And, like, can you talk to us about this? They'd be like, yeah, no. F this. And like, we would see so many people walk out, right? And never come back because it could not be what we were saying. There had to be another solution for their life to be fixed besides themselves, right? So that's hard. Yeah. So that's my I think my next big project, but I'm always like, should I go back to school? Should I finish my degree? Should I work? I mean, obviously you have to work to live, but
yeah, for sure. What degree?
I originally wanted to be a midwife. That's what I wanted to do. And before I got pregnant with my third, I got into the social justice program at King's with a scholarship. And so I was like, oh, I could do this, and then I could do my midwife, because you can transfer all your whatever you get from one degree to the other, right? And then I thought, no, I don't necessarily want to be a midwife. I want to be like teaching midwifery. So like a professor is the same guy. Yeah. The professor of midwifery. So like someone who teaches it.
Or like a doula?
Not a doula. No. So doula I've done like training for doula before, but to me doula isn't the same. Like, it's not the same credentials. Even though I don't want to make it about money, I still have to think about money.
For sure.
I always say like, okay, I want to do what I love, which I think midwifery for me, I had midwives with all three of my kids and they empowered me. And so that's where like when I was 17, I was like, I'm going to be a midwife. And so I kept going back to school to like upgrade credits and finish this credit and get university credit and this and that. And then I would just like have kids and life would happen and all this stuff. And then I finally got so close right before this baby. And then I was like, So I kind of gave up on that. I was like, I have to work. I just have to get a good mat leave. Like was my mission. Yeah. And then even now I'm like, okay, my mat leave is ending. I have to go back to work and make all the money that I spent up, right? Like, but the other part of me is like, okay, but like long term, being a professor, like, is going to make me more money than what I'm going to make right now.
Yeah.
Right? So the program and then the professor, that's like, eventually my big dream is incorporating the two.
Yeah.
Having the emotional program like outlined with whatever like I choose to do, like
for income,
career wise.
So can I talk to you for 1 second? Let me talk. Let me
He's like, this lady has so much going on in her
brain. No. Because I'm a guy. I think a lot. Like
I'm an overthinker.
yeah, I wouldn't say I'm an overthinker. I just think a lot. You know?
Where do you get to the overthinker part? Like, how do you know if you're an overthinker?
I feel like an overthinker is when you think to the point where you discourage yourself.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I know.
You're like, I've already figured it out.
Yeah. So, for me, I'll say, okay, so I wrote this blog once because I used to write blogs back in the day.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I wrote this one blog and it was gift, dream, and skill or something like that. It was something around those lines, right?
Okay.
It was your gift, your talent, your talent and your dream or something like that, and how it correlate. I can't remember exactly.
They all correlate, yes.
They all correlate, but you have to find a point where they do.
Yes.
So like everything in your life happen and it all have a connect, right?
Yes.
Even if you was to go and work KFC and then you went to work in a hospital, you just have to look for the connection.
The connection, yes.
And there's always a connection.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm like at this point in my life. I'm making connections with people. Like I have a meeting on Thursday to meet with someone who has a connection of jails. So they can they have an in the jail system. Yeah. And so they can kind of let me know, okay, like would this program be is it something that they would fund or is it something that they would like trial or whatever. So like, but yes, I think I struggle with purpose.
That was it. So it was purpose, yes. Gift, and dreams.
Yes. I struggle with purpose and gift because people will naturally tell me all the time, okay, you're a natural psychologist, you're a natural therapist, you're natural this, you're natural that. You should be doing this, you should be doing that. But there's certain things where I put a halt to because it's too close to home.
For sure.
So if I was a psychologist, I'd be trying to save everybody.
Yeah, no.
I would take all their stuff home. I'd be calling them at 12, be like, are you okay? Like, are you okay, Randy? Like this is what I would be doing, right? And so that's too close to home for me because I like to save people. That's been my trauma in the past. So then part of my healing is letting people be where they're at and only being able to reflect where I can and letting them be, right? Drug addiction is huge in my family. Addiction is huge in my family. So people are like, oh, you should be like, an addict counselor. You know things really well. It's too close to home for me. I would literally like probably be like obsessed with how they survive or if they don't survive, right? So there's certain things where I have to be like, okay, what is too close for home? And like, what can I do and still live out my purpose? And sometimes that overthinking part happens where the doubt is like, well, what if you're missing your mark because you're too afraid to be too close to home, right? Yeah.
But it's okay. The thing is that we can't do everything.
No, we can't.
But you can do some things.
But something. I'm like, I'm gonna do everything.
Yeah. No, and no, it's okay to do everything, but we can't do.
We can't. No.
Yeah, but it's okay to try everything. That's,
yes.
So.
Yes.
But the thing is like, what I was trying to say is that, like, money is necessary, But money is necessary, but the thing is that with our purpose and our gifts, most times a gift is something that you can't see.
Yes. Yeah.
So a lot of the times with your gift, you could be like, you know what, I want to do a book. But when you wrote this book, I know you didn't have money in your mind because there's much money in writing books unless you become a big publisher.
Overnight or something like that. Or you have someone publishing your stuff for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for a split second, you wasn't thinking self, you was thinking everything else.
Yes.
How like impact, purpose.
Yes. Yeah.
And true purpose is how you get this,
Yes.
But I actually believe that here is where the money even is. Yes. I feel like once people learn a way to connect with the right people,
yes, yeah,
is when they can actually, because like I thought, like making money is fun, but it's not fun if you're not living in purpose,
No, I've learned that in the past.
Yeah.
The past 2 years, like I went into like a position where I was making the most money I've made in my life, right? Like I've struggled a lot in my life financially, and so last year I got a job. It was a really good job. I don't even have a degree in that area, but they were like, yeah, you speak French. We'll give you this job, right? And I was making more money, and I thought, well, this is like not bad. But I hated the position. It's so stressful. And even thinking about going back is what encouraged me to do other things. Like try to, right? Like I have so much anxiety about going back to that job that's so stressful that I'm willing to like, okay, what are my other avenues? And money, we need to survive. But I think I always get like annoyed when this thing says, but I'm going to say it anyways, this comment. Someone said to me like, how about you live like if you were a millionaire? Do what you would do if you were a millionaire. If you were a millionaire, what would you do? And if I was a millionaire, I would go back to school. That's what I would do because I enjoy learning. I enjoy retaining information, and I would go to my highest degree, and then I would want to teach. I would want to teach at university level. I wouldn't want to just teach like whatever, right? Because I think that's where the biggest effect is. If we can change adults, then the adults will naturally change self, and then they will reflect on their children and the communities, whatever. So why can't I live like that now? Well, because reality. I have 3 children that are depending on me and a household, and our economy doesn't allow us to just like frolic, right? So,
and I think at 32, because I'm 32 now. Oh no, I'm 33. What was I thinking?
1990.
1990.
Yeah, I'm 91.
Yeah.
So I'll be 32 in November.
Oh yeah, I'm 33 in August. So, but what I would say is, I think you're going about it the right way, because you have a hunger for more, and I feel like that's all you need.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that anything you do, that you try, that is just based in income would not work out, because that's the stage that you at right now.
Yes. Yeah.
So eventually it will still come. Like, for instance, I told my girl today, because she's gonna do something tomorrow, and I'm like, it's gonna work out, and she's like, hopefully. And I said, even if you think it doesn't work out, it works out for you. Yes. Because if it doesn't work out, it means that it has something else.
Yes. Yeah. So there's another avenue.
Yeah. So it's gonna work out either ways. Like it's gonna go as planned. Yes. And like the way our lives are, like I actually feel like the way I'm gonna die is already written.
Oh yeah, I tell this to people all the time. If your purpose is that we're gonna die,
exactly.
Your purpose is that inevitably we all die, and so this whole idea, and I can say this because I've had a lot of death in my life. Knock on wood that doesn't happen. Is this wood? Okay, but I think purpose means how you die.
Yeah,
that's it. I don't like. Yes, I'm sure that there's purposes that you can do in your life. And I think that's where decision and choice comes into play. Like, am I going to be this person or am I going to be that person? And how does that work out? And the connection part. And if you can unravel all that while you're on earth, that's amazing. That's great. You'll probably have a really prosperous, great life. But eventually you're going to die.
Yeah.
And then your purpose is, how did you die? Your death is just... That's why when people say, they went too soon. No, they went when they were supposed to.
Supposed to, yeah.
When people had the long life, they went when they were supposed to. It's painful to hear that, because it's we have a conditioning of like, you're supposed to live till you're 90 or 100 and then you die, right? But that's not really reality. That's not... We're supposed to die, and then that impact of our death is our purpose.
Yeah, and who you remember as.
Yes, yeah. Even if we died as a day old, that impact that you had in this life, you fought really, really hard to come. Think about everything you had to go through to come just into this world for one day, and then to die in someone's hands the next. How painful that must be for those parents, and how amazing it is that life came and did that impact for that one day. To me, that's purpose.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I can look at that and be like, wow. Like, I could never do, I know my purpose was not to have children that I lose, because I would die. I would physically be like, okay, there's no point of me living. I could not go on. But those people survived the death of their
Yeah, I can go
1-day-old
on.
child, right?
If it is written how we die and when we die,
Yes.
that means that I believe that life doesn't go up, it goes to the side. So we don't get older.
Yeah. Yeah.
So your spirit, so every day your spirit just experience a new experience. So like right now you're experiencing me and I experiencing you.
Yes.
But a while ago you was with your kids. You was experiencing that.
Yeah.
You know, and the key to life is to just enjoy each experience.
Yes.
Because one day it's not going to be there anymore. You know,
I know.
And a lot of the times when I'll leave the gym on a morning sometimes and I'll go outside and I'll just take a fresh breath. Because last week I was sick. Yeah. And I'm like, you never really appreciate life until you're sick. And then you're like, oh my gosh, it feels so good to breathe. Yeah. You know, I know you're breathing.
I'm not dying.
I know you're breathing and you're like, oh my God. Like when we could breathe naturally, we forget how nice life really is.
Really is, yeah.
You know, and then we sick, then we're like, oh, I wish I wasn't. Or like in winter, we wish for sun, and then in sun, we wish for winter.
I know.
You know, and it's things like
so
that.
Ungrateful.
But yeah, so your life literally, your spirit literally goes to the side from one experience to the next, to the next, to the next, until it do have more experiences left. Yeah. But I believe that that's how time goes. I believe that who you are in 10 years is happening right now. It's just that your spirit is in this moment right now.
Yeah. These hard moments, yeah.
You know? But the hard moments is for us to help. It's purpose.
Creative.
Exactly. You know, is it all for a reason. And like for me, I have a lot of hard moments still. And me as the leader of my house, it's harder because it's hard to show emotion like that.
Yes.
You know, it's okay for me to be like, oh, you're having a hard day. But if I'm having too much of a hard day, then you know, it's like who it's like if I'm having a really hard day, the whole energy of my house change.
Therapy.
You know? Yeah, well
but this is what I'm saying, because if you don't allow yourself to have hard days, then and you shut down during those hard days, right? And you think that you're like, I'm being strong, but your children in the household, the whole energy in the house is already shifted because you're having that hard day.
Yeah.
What are we teaching our children? We're then teaching our children that when they have hard days,
to shut it down.
And let the world keep going. And when they're in the room, the whole room's going to feel it. So, subconsciously,
You are right.
I'm not saying that that's what you're doing or your intention is to do that.
No, for sure.
But even like my children, even when my partner has hard days, when he comes and he is like a quiet pin in the room, like a needle could drop, and you can feel how he's having a hard day. But the children already know, oh, he's having a hard day. Like, they already know that. And even with me, my teenager, oh, Mom, are you in a mood? She's telling me, Mom, I know you're trying to hide your mood, but we can all see it.
Yeah.
Right? She's already telling me that. So if I don't deal with my mood, my hard day, my time, and I suppress it, guess what they think?
It's okay to do it.
It's okay.
So
subconsciously.
You're right. But so what I do is that once a week I reset. I do this, right? But how I do it is that I take an hour for myself, and I go through sometimes. Like I will take my kids and I'll hug them and I'll pray.
Yes.
You know, or I will sing or I will dance with them for a while. You know. Yeah. A lot of the times they don't know that like if for people who know me, you'll never know when I sad. Even my mom does. She'll be like, Vaughn, I feel like so. But my girl now sometimes she's like, I think you're going through something. But you can never really tell because my poker face is so strong.
Because you have your,
you know, like I'm always happy. You know, like even when I'm sad, I'm happy.
Yes.
You know, and it is dangerous.
Pretending.
Yeah, it is dangerous. It is dangerous. I'm not saying that the way I deal with it is right. At
No,
all,
no.
it's not right. But it's just like,
But it's very common. It's very,
Yeah.
especially in men, and that's the hard part, right? Is like men have to be normal too, and normal means you have to be a 4-part human being, including emotional.
exactly. Well, yeah.
Yes,
I mean, I
yes.
think it's because I was raised by my mom,
Yes.
and my dad was there, but not really.
Yeah.
And I saw my mom cry twice.
Yes.
Until I had kids, and then I seen her cry a million times, and I was like, where was all these tears? She's like, I just didn't see. And I heard a quote in a movie.
I just didn't see, she said?
That I didn't see her tears.
Oh, her tears.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I heard this quote in a movie, The Addams Project. I don't know if you ever seen that movie, but he said, so he went to visit his mom in the future.
Okay.
So the future him came back to visit his mom.
Yeah.
And his mom was talking to him in a bar, didn't know it was him. And she said that my son is giving trouble right now. His father died and he started giving issues.
Yeah.
And he told his mom, is like, the problem with being strong for your kids is that they believe it. You know? So like when you're trying to be this strong person and you're feeling emotionless,
Yes.
your kids believe that it actually not hurting you.
Yes.
That thing's happening.
Yes. Yeah.
You know? And they feel like that is wrong. You know? So
Yeah.
I do understand. I do understand, and I.
It's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard to be an adult and a parent and a person and a human and all the things in one person, right? Like It's hard. But I always say it's not one day at a time, it's one moment at a time.
Yeah.
Because in reference to what you were saying, we're all just experiencing different moments. Sometimes you don't have a whole day to look forward to, just one moment. So, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So as we wrap, you want to say something about your book? You could pay yourself out there right now.
Go buy my book. It's on Amazon.
You could hold it. So
I'm gonna hold it. I'm gonna hold it for you guys. It's called Ctrl Alt Delete, and it's on my page. My Instagram page is celac.c, and it's in the link. It's in the link in my bio. And I just want you to buy it, not so that you can spend all your money, but because this is about connection and the human experience. And I really just want to hear how people connect to it and what poem is your favorite or what writing piece is your favorite and what you thought about it. Because just like Vaughn was saying, his interpretations of the writings, that gives me perspective on life and people. And that's what I'm here for. People. So,
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, so here we go. We had this is another episode of Young and Gifted This is another episode of Young and Gifted podcast. This is episode 20.
20.
Yeah, and today we had another special guest, Cierra Machado. I said that right?
Machado.
It's
okay. everyone says McAdoo or Machado. It's okay. But
Cierra
it's
Machado. And yeah, so I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was amazing. And celebrate 20th.
Yeah.
Because 20th is a big deal.
Yeah. And when is your 20th? I might be on before that, hopefully.
Yes, I think we're gonna try to get Vaughn on my podcast. We're gonna try to get it going and get more people out there. I think 2 people listen to my podcast.
Yeah, that's
There's
good.
only 1 episode, but
2 people is good. 2 people is enough, you know. And
we're getting there.
So thanks for everything. Thanks for
having me.
Thanks for listening, guys, and I'll see you guys next week.